Tuesday, August 31st, and the war in Afghanistan is over. And somehow everything is Joe Biden's fault. People seem very focused on the 13 service members who were killed recently at the airport in Kabul. Um, but what about the 2,500 other service people that have been killed in the past 20 years, or the 3,600 US contract workers that have died? Um, where is the accountability to George Bush and Dick Cheney, who got us into that war with no clear mission? Clearly, not having learned the lessons of Somalia to just get in, you know, do your thing and get back out. We got to stay there. And every administration afterwards did nothing about getting us out of there, knowing what a mess it would be and sort of political suicide. We had to stay and support a government that didn't want to rule and train forces that didn't want to protect. And so, Trump releases 5,000 Taliban prisoners, sort of lets them army up and reduces our forces, and Biden pulls the trigger to say, okay, we're out. And somehow all of that's happening is his fault. It's the same result would have happened when the Afghan government says, don't tell anybody you're leaving. We don't want to scare anybody. But then as soon as it's announced that they're leaving, that we're leaving, they pack up their suitcases with cash and get out of Dodge. The military services just gave up. Those weapons that are in the hands of the Taliban, the U.S. weapons, were weapons we gave to the Afghan forces. They're the ones who abandoned them. But it's all Joe Biden's fault for some reason. I just don't see anywhere in the media a counter story to that, and I don't understand why constantly the Republicans and the media blame Democrats. The Democrats just take it, and there's never any accountability for a Republican ever, except for lowering taxes on rich people. They're happy to admit that. And meanwhile, we've got COVID fucking. Then the numbers are near the worst that they've been, and they're all concentrated in areas that are being willfully ignorant and willfully negligent on their care. There's a million more cases cumulatively in Florida and in Texas than there ever were in New York. Texas has more deaths than there were in New York. In New York, it all happened at the beginning because we were caught flat-footed, because we had no help, no clear warning, no clear assistance that the federal government should have been providing and could have been providing had Trump not chosen to keep the information to himself and not help anybody. But now we've got death rates in Texas and in Florida, and hospitals that are exploding. In Florida, they're setting up extra temporary tent hospitals, like we did in New York at the very beginning, when we didn't know any better, and now we know better. And why is DeSantis not getting the blame and the shame for what's happening in his state? It's extremely frustrating to sit here and watch the Democrats do nothing and say nothing about what's happening. And the stories in the media are never pointing out the faults of the GOP, but always questioning anything that the Democrats have done. So it's a frustrating fucking day. And there's part of me that wonders if Biden's impetus for following through with leaving Afghanistan is that he knows he doesn't need to get reelected. Maybe he's not planning on running. I don't know. And I sure as hell don't think Kamala Harris would be the candidate. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But I'm just wondering if he's trying to make himself a one-term president of impact rather than trying to appease people to try to get reelected. So, I mean, time will tell on that one. But in the meantime, it looks like we're officially not at war. I wonder how that's going to feel.